Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. First let me apologize that this video is quite late. I just noticed today that it's been about 20 days since I did that little ghost hunting trip to the cemetery, and I did tell you guys about that in my last ghost hunting video, and I apologize again that it's been so long in between me going there and then showing you guys what I got. I've been very busy. Things have just been very hectic around here. But I'm doing this video today. Every time I sat down to do this video, I've actually been interrupted, so I'm hoping not to be interrupted today. Just to let you guys know, I am on the East Coast, and yesterday we did have an earthquake. I live in northern New Jersey, and even though the earthquake was quite small and it was centered down in Virginia, we got shaken pretty bad where I was. It's very odd because not everybody around me felt it, but there are people who felt it pretty hard, and there are people who didn't feel anything at all. But it was freaking weird, guys. Let me tell you, I've never been through an earthquake. I'm in New Jersey, and I was actually putting books on my bookshelf, and my mom was over, my niece was here, and Andrew was over, and they just started yelling, "Your house is shaking," and I was like busy doing something, so I didn't notice it at first. And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about?" And they're like, "What are you doing in there?" Because I just pulled a couple paranormal magazines out of my entertainment center. I was putting them back on my bookshelf, and they're like, "Did you conjure up the demons?" I don't think they were being serious, but on the other hand, my mom was pretty freaked out because her couch was shaking that she was sitting on. And I looked at my feet and I saw that I was shaking, and I got kind of caught off balance, so I was like kind of shifted off my feet into the bed, and as I'm sitting on the bed, I'm like, everything is shaking around me. And she's like, "Maybe something's going on in your basement," she's yelling to me, and I'm like, "No, this is an earthquake." I like took charge. I'm like, "Everybody in a doorway." It was weird because we don't get earthquakes around here. There's a bird in the tree. I caught a glimpse of it in my mirror. But I mean, it wasn't like nothing fell off the wall or nothing was damaged, but it was freaking weird and it was scary, and wow. So back to the ghost hunting trip video. As I told you guys, I discovered this little cemetery that I never even heard of, and it was right by the last cemetery that I went to and did a little poking around and taking pictures and some ghost hunting in that cemetery. You guys probably remember that from my scariest paranormal experience video. I did contact something in a cemetery once and kind of bring it home with me. Well, I thought that was the only cemetery in that town. I know that there was a small Catholic cemetery in that town, but I didn't realize that there was a really old cemetery in that town until one day I was actually on findagrave.com, and I'm saying that kind of slow and weird to you guys in case you want to check it out. Again, it's called findagrave.com, and what findagrave.com is like the world's largest internet database for graves and cemeteries. And I like to just browse on there for different cemeteries that I might be missing in my county, in my area. And that morning I was actually eating my breakfast and I was browsing in my county for different cemeteries, and I noticed it was in that town that I was at the other graveyard in, and I'm like, I never even heard of this. What is this? What are they talking about? I was assuming it was a really small graveyard, maybe attached to someone's yard, because sometimes way back in the day, and I know that sounds really dumb when I say that, you buried your family in your backyard, kinda. But it wasn't. So I did some snooping around, and I actually got in contact with my family members, and my niece reported to me that her mother went to the Catholic school that's right behind the cemetery, so she knew right where it was, and we got together and we went there. When we got there, I was kind of confused because one part of the cemetery had newer headstones in it, not very recent, but up until I believe 1999 was like the most recent, and then it was actually nice and taken care of. The grass was cut, and the older part, which seemed to be the older part to me, was not taken care of. There was like thorny vines everywhere, and it was going to be hell to walk through it, but we did it anyways. So it was just odd that there was like, it seemed like a well-kept area and a not well-kept area. So we were confused about that. But we walked in through the well-kept area at first. We saw some older graves. I took some pictures, and nothing, eventful happened. We just walked through that part. I saw a very kind of touching headstone, something that I've never seen, because it's quite rare up here, and it's actually a slave family's headstone. Now you guys might be a little confused. I was a little confused. I mean, I knew that New Jersey had slavery, but I didn't know if it was in abundance. But up until about, you know, the mid-1800s, it was in abundance here, and it technically was not abolished until the end of the Civil War. There was a slave family plot, and it was little boys, and I was just very moved by that. I was like, wow. It seemed that that headstone originally probably was damaged, and somebody very recently replaced it with a newer headstone, and I'll show you guys the picture in the end of the video of that. So after we got through the, what I called the newer part of the cemetery, we walked up to where all the older headstones, or they just seemed to be older because they were more of the sandstone headstones that don't hold up very well, where there were more granite headstones down in the newer part. When we walked up in there, I'm telling you guys, it was so overgrown, and there were vines and they were thorny everywhere, and we were getting cut on our legs because it was a super hot day. We didn't wear jeans where we should have, but I didn't think to. But like troopers and good investigators and people who just wanted to see this really nice old cemetery, we went on and we took some pictures, and the entire time I'm walking through the cemetery from the beginning, I had the voice recorder on. So we're just moseying on through, and I caught some interesting headstones that I've never seen anything like it before. Very old. I mean, there are burials from the late 1700s all the way up until, as I said, about 1999. So I will show you the pictures of those at the end of the video. Once I figured I had enough pictures, as good as pictures as I can get in the summer, since the vines were growing up all around. I mean, we did clear off some. We decided that we were going to head back, and the entire time I had the voice recorder on, but as we were going to head out, I said, let's stop here and do an EVP session. We stopped and we did the EVP session at the, towards the end of the older part, and I didn't get anything in the EVP session. So we kept walking out, and we just walked past the graves, and we were heading on out to where the car was. So as we were heading out, my niece pointed out to us a grave that she saw when we were walking in, but I didn't notice it, and I don't think my sister-in-law noticed it either. But it was actually a headstone, just had 2 names on it and no dates. But it looked like it was a more modern headstone, one of the granite solid ones. So I'm assuming that maybe it was another replacement stone from a stone that maybe got damaged, was too old, fell over, and somebody took the money and the time to replace it. So while we were standing there, we're just, you know, saying, yeah, that's kind of odd, and we're looking at it, trying to find any indication of maybe that was the plot and the burials were around it. I got an EVP then because I had the voice recorder on as we were walking out. You guys will hear it, and I'll play it at the end of the video with the pictures. I'm going to loop it 3 times for you. To me, it sounds just like a child. It sounds like he or she is almost singing, and it sounds like they're saying, "My grave." I mean, it's amazing. I heard it when I first got home, and I was taken aback by it. So that was the only EVP I got that day. I mean, there are a few things on the recorder that I could say might be EVP, but it's so hard to hear them, so I'm going to keep them out of the video today. And I'm going to show you guys the pictures now. Just bear in mind that I will probably be going back there as the seasons change and things die a little bit, maybe in the winter or early spring before everything gets a chance to bloom back up again and pick me in the legs. And I'll take better pictures of these headstones. There are a lot of Civil War veterans, and there are about 3 or 4, I believe, Revolutionary War veterans in this cemetery. Now I'll tell you the story behind why the 2 cemeteries, one's cleared out, one's not. The one that's cleared out was actually a separate cemetery from the top one. I call it the top one because you have to walk up a little hill to get to the older one. That one was actually the Catholic cemetery that went with the Catholic church that was right across the street from it. The other one was for Protestant people. So the Catholic cemetery had the Catholics, the poorer people who couldn't afford proper good burials, they buried them there, and the slaves. So that's where the Catholics were, and up on top were the Protestants. Now, there is another church across the street looking this way from the older part, or where the Protestants were, and it is not a Catholic church, it's a Protestant church, and it's quite old, so I'm assuming that they kept it kind of together, but they kept them separate, because I know back in that day, Catholics and Protestants didn't exactly like each other, agree with each other. So that explains why one end is cleared out, because the Catholic church that's across the street still takes care of it. The Protestant church that's across that street does not take care of the old burial ground, because it's actually part of the Historical Society of Sussex County, New Jersey. It's up to them to take care of it, and they don't get enough donations or money to do so. It's weird because I don't imagine them as being two separate cemeteries, but technically they are. You would think that maybe someone from the Catholic Church would just run the mower up on top, but they do not go in there, so it's odd. Now I'll show you the pictures and play the EVP for you guys. I will note that there was one grave around where we got the little kid's voice say my grave, and it was a little tiny child who was only 2 years old. Their name was John. It was a little boy. I don't think it was him because it sounds a little older than 2, but it definitely sounds very young. So please enjoy the EVP and the picture. I'm going to let you guys know I will be back ghost hunting at my parents' house this weekend. My mother's telling me there's things going on. I've heard things in there when I've been visiting. My nieces have heard things in there when they've been visiting, and I actually saw something in there. So I will bring you that story when I go back this weekend and I visit, and I have all the material together to present a video to you guys. So again, thanks for subscribing, and thank you for watching. Bye.